Hey, Amanda here, and I am going to formulate my response to CJ's art video. And I don't think I've ever been quite this excited to upload a video for this channel yet. This was CJ's idea, so I give major credit to her, and I'm really happy that she started the conversation off. She gave me a lot to bounce off of. I'm going to relate back to her little analogy about this, what did she say, springboard to bounce off of. But like, my heart's actually racing. I read an article. Okay, I really have to back it up. I want to start by making one point, and for the record, if you didn't watch CJ's video, letting you know now that CJ and I do not disagree about art at all. We both consider ourselves artists. As she says, we are artists, and that's obviously, it's not even something I can say that I love or have a passion for. It's just something that's just intrinsically a part of who I am. And it's just as important to me as is important to her, so I'm just simply going to bring up points that she made me think of, or just something I feel like shouldn't elaborate upon. So, I mean, that's the whole point of this thing anyway, you know? I really have to calm down. I definitely have to calm down. I'm so enthusiastic right now. I feel like everything's running a mile a minute. So, anyway, I'm going to start with one of my more simpler points. Listen to my grammar, it's going out the door. Goodbye, decent grammar, God. Alright, so I'm going to start out with one of my simpler points about artwork is, CJ kept bringing up how, you know, it's a form of expression, a form of communication, and she kept using the word audience and things like that. And I'm not even saying that she's wrong, I'm simply just bringing up another point. For a lot of people, I remember, you know, I'm hugely into music, huge. I love music. It's been a part of my life since day one, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. And I've read countless interviews from bands I love to artists I can't stand, and I'm reading, and I'm watching interviews, and, you know, of half of them I can think of, like, you know, someone like a Taylor Swift. I'll use someone really popular, who says, you know, my point, so to speak, of making my music is to get a message out, you know, to be able to have something that people can relate to. I hear that phrase, I think, 1,000 times a day, you know. I need to feel like that people can relate to me, and then I read from other people, and I'm trying to remember the one band that sticks out in my brain. I think it was The Used. I'm not sure, though. One of the members of The Used was saying, you know, I just create stuff, and if people like it, that's awesome. Like, I do art for me, like, I make music for me, make it for myself, and that's how I wouldn't say I'm consistent with how I am with my artwork, whether it's my photography or my poetry or my dance. Yeah, there's a good part of me that I feel like is just such a communicator, and I want to, when I find a certain point, I want to share that with people. I want to share my ideas, I want to share my experiences, I want to share everything. But then other times I feel like I get a very different, very inward feeling sometimes when I'm writing certain pieces of poetry or something like that, or taking a certain photograph and I publish it or I post it, and I just hope that maybe people will like it too. But, okay, so my point is, the point I'm trying to make is that, from my perspective, especially from personal experience, sometimes art is just a form of catharsis. I shouldn't use the word just, because I know that even catharsis can do so much for another person. Even if it's something like one person's trash is another person's treasure. I'll write some poem that I find so mediocre, something I felt like almost just like maintenance. It was something I just had to get out, you know what I mean? It wasn't even something like, you know what, I'm intending to write something beautiful. I'm going to intend to write something that is excellent on my standards. This was just something cathartic for me, for myself, and it is all the more mind-blowing when people say something, Amanda, that was just one amazing piece of poetry, that I loved that, I thought that was amazing, oh, I love this photograph, it means so much to me. Really? Because I just had to get that stuff out. I'm glad that it means more to you than it does to me now. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I think is overlooked, and sometimes art is so selfish, you know? And some people, you know, consider art like a labor of love. It's something that they do to try and get themselves out there to other people, which of course is a beautiful thing. And like I said before, like, I felt that, you know, where I felt like I wanted to communicate certain things. Like, even, like, I wrote a rap once, and it was a huge message that I just wanted to share, and I wanted to just express in words to people. That's totally different than just when I am very selfishly just writing something or just doing something for myself. So that's one thing people should also keep in mind, is that art isn't always some great thing that, you know, is always intended to like save the world. You know, of course I'm using hyperboles left and right, but get my point, please. Sometimes it's simply a form of catharsis, and whoever can pick up on it or enjoy it, that just makes it all the more better. The more better? What is wrong with me? So, I'll move on to the next point. Yes, I took notes. As CJ was talking, I took notes. So, okay, so point number 2 I'm going to make. Okay, so take something like abstract art. Someone has a nice white canvas or sheet of paper, what have you, and they take the paintbrush and they just, yes, this is a pen, just follow with me, and they just dip it in, and they're just like, oh, black paint, here we go. Don't ask why I have paint next to me. I mean, I can't paint for the life of me, but I love to use it. Anyway, you dip, you paint a circle, and you color it in really nicely. Bam! It's genius. It is genius. It gets into a museum, and like, that is art. And then you always see those people who are going to argue, that's not art, that's a black circle on a white piece of paper. Oh no, but it means this and this and this and this. And you have these people just constantly battling, constantly arguing about what art is. And I look at that, and I was telling CJ earlier, I have two sides of me, and I feel like one of them has, you know, their own very not so humble opinion, thought of what art is, and I kind of almost wants to categorize it and, you know, give its criteria, and the other half of me just feels so obligated to say, no, you can't say that because it's art. And in the words of CJ, the definition of art, like art itself, is just up to interpretation. So please just keep that in mind, that above everything that I'm saying, interpretation that trumps everything. So please keep that in mind, that everything I'm saying, I don't even want to present as fact. This isn't like an argument where I feel like I have done my research and I have, you know, substantiated my opinion with fact. This is something that is like pure opinion, and I don't feel like this is, you know, the right opinion. You know what I'm saying? It's just personal thoughts. But overall, I'm just going to get it out right there, right now, that art is, the definition of it is just up to interpretation. So let me, with that said, go back to my scenario. You have the black dot on the white piece of paper. So profound, so artistic, right? And something that seems to just consume my brain is just this, what art is, again, this is the, just my opinion, I keep feeling like that there is a certain thing about art that is perfected, and not that there's only one way to perfect art, but like perfect the art of drawing. Like, I think that in itself is an art. I guess you can almost say that there is an art to creating art, and then there's art itself. I think that there almost is an art to art making, art creating, because I look at something like a black dot on a white piece of paper, and this is just indisputable. Anyone can do that. Anyone can do that. What makes it different and artistic is the meaning behind it, you know, the potential meaning of what a black dot on a white piece of paper is. Fine. I would never debate that. I would never try and go against that. But basically, or like the art of cooking or the art of modeling. Anyone can go like this. Does that make it art? Does that make it art? Does it? I don't even want to say no or yes. Just does it? Question mark. I'll leave that up to you to just kind of think about. My point being that there is just a lot of what people perceive art to be, seem to put a lot of meaning into what the meaning is behind whatever the person is doing. In other words, the intention behind the artist's black dot on the white paper, that seems to just make all the difference. It can just be the dot of an eye, and that doesn't have any artistic profound meaning. But if the artist says, well, actually it symbolizes this, now it's art. Now it's art, because it's a different way of expressing yourself. So in that way, sure, it could be art. But for me personally, I like to think that art, in my own little world of what the ideal art is the perfection of a certain something, the perfection of what, you know, I think of someone like Michelangelo or something like that. You know, I'm taking somebody really obvious, or like a Yo-Yo Ma, like perfecting the art of violin playing or perfecting the art of dance. And again, because dance and art, like those things are subjective alone, that makes room for the art, which is the perfection of it. I feel like art and perfection could almost be synonymous, and that just came to my brain right now. Wow. So I'm making discoveries as we're going along here. If you can't tell right now, I'm just going crazy with this. So I think I'm done with that. Okay, so point number 3 and the last point. After CJ made her video, I immediately wanted to say things because it was just fresh on my brain and things were just flying and fleeting everywhere all the time. Just in that moment right after I was done watching her video. But I'm like, you know what? Nope, just sit for a second. Because I had recalled a practice test I was taking for English last year. And in that test, there was a reading comprehension, you know, one of those passages, you read the passage and answer questions about it. And this particular passage was something that both interested me and kind of confused me because it was foreign. I honestly felt like I had one of those ignorant moments because the article was about how mathematics is an art form. And I'm like, whoa. When I first read this, I was intrigued. I was really interested, and I did read the passage all through a couple times. I probably spent more time on it than I should have, but I found it very interesting. But at the same time, I'm thinking, whoa. You have art, and you have numbers, math. They have been distinct as long as I've been around. You know what I'm saying? I think of those as two completely separate worlds. They don't mingle. And then a part of me was like, whoa, Amanda, so let's just slow down, just take a chill pill. Let's read this. And I'm reading. And I'm just like, math, art, and I was having a hard time believing it, almost like magic, like believing in it, which was just ludicrous to think now. And by the end of the article, I'm like, this is really something else. This is not your typical painting. This is not your typical sculpting. This is not your typical photography. This is math. Math is art. And I also thought back to the Renaissance, the all glorious, amazing, forever famous Renaissance. Just everything about that, math and art, and how they were one and everything. And I think that along the way we've lost that. And with that said, I talked to my boyfriend last night because he loves his numbers, and I asked him about that in general. How do you feel about math being art? And in his words, one statement he made that I remember, he said that, in his opinion, mathematics is definitely an art form, especially at higher levels, at higher math levels. I'm guessing he means things like, I'm not that knowledgeable on math at all, but maybe things like quantum physics or like, you know, higher levels of algebra or something. He meant how those levels of math require a certain way of going about discovering things, and that way of going about discoveries is, in his opinion, very similar to how artists operate. Now, I'm using the word operate, as I should be using with math. So I'm starting to really, you know, put this two together as one conglomeration of just beauty. So he was claiming that how people make discoveries in math and how people make discoveries in the art world are extremely similar. However, the way that they are looked back upon and the way that they are critiqued, so to speak, or even just looked at are different. But he said that in essence, mathematics, especially in its purest form, is art. And I said, okay, and that was that. And I even did a little research today. I did my typical Google search, mathematics as an art form, and I came up with this. I think it was the second result. Let me check. It was the second result of my Google search, and it is titled A Mathematician's Lament by Paul Lockhart. Now, I'm only 8 pages in, and it's like 25 pages long. It's like, you know, a little essay or something. So I plan on finishing it, but just reading those 8 pages, I'm like, whoa, I got to get this down. And he was arguing that if math is going to be continued taught, if math is going to continue to be taught the way it is now in schools, math should not be taught in school at all. And he was giving an example about how he was saying that as a mathematician, as an artist, as a mathematician, he would he was just a little anecdote. He would draw a rectangle and like draw a triangle inside it, and then he was talking about making something simple, because to mathematicians, like simplicity is beauty and beauty is simplicity, and I'm sure that's something